One way to save a lot of time whenever you're doing laser cutting is to record the settings. Here on this K40 machine, we have all the settings written down here. The feeds and speeds, like whenever we're raster engraving, for each material it's going to be a different speed. So for like 1/8 inch acrylic, you're going to be engraving at 100 millimeters a second at the setting we call E. We found it to be the best setting for engraving. And then also for cutting, for 1/8 inch acrylic, you cut at 5 millimeters a second at 50% power, or 11 millimeters a second at 50% power 2 times. And then like for inch and the 32nd inch thick plastic, we're cutting at 200 millimeters a second for engraving, and then for cutting 200 millimeters a second at 60% power. So one thing that also was going to kind of change is if your mirrors aren't in focus. I'm guessing whenever we did this that our mirrors were not in focus, because last time I cut 1/8 inch acrylic I was able to do a little bit of a faster pass than this, but having the mirrors aligned is very important. Whenever they're not, it just doesn't cut very well. But having these all written down is very important. Each machine may be a little bit different, so you can't like take all of these settings here and copy them. There's little factors that come into play. Your machine might not have air assist, it might be a different laser tube, or the mirrors might not be the same, or just little factors add up. It's a good idea just to test around with it yourself and figure out what your machine needs to do to cut. So whenever I say like 60% power, what that is we did our own markings on here. So 0% is right here, 100% is right here, and then from there we divided it and added our own markings. And then we did it under the panel here, so I'm not sure how it's rubbing away. But there used to be an E right here. This is 50%, that's 25, this is 75, and that's 100. And from there you have a pretty good scale of what power you're cutting. I need to cut out this wrench graphic on the laser cutter, and in this video I'm going to go through the process of cutting the stock, getting it on the laser cutter, and cutting it. I have this roll of plastic here. I'm going to roll it back so I got some room to work with. I probably want to make about 10 of these wrenches, and they're about 10.1 inches, so I'm just going to make the marks every 11 inches. And now we'll cut the stock. Now I'll start to tape this down. Since it's real thin and it also kind of has a curve to it, the tape is important. So I'm moving these around, try to get the best yield. I can fit 2 wrenches just about perfect on this sheet here, and then I'm going to try to fit one in the center here, a smaller one, just because that would be wasted. Anytime you're using the laser cutter, you want to exhaust it probably outside, unless you have some kind of filter, but this is just the easiest way. Now I'll go ahead and turn on the machine. I'll click the initialize laser cutter button, which just kind of preps it for ready. And I'll go ahead and click the raster engrave button. I'm gonna set the air assist now probably to about 20 psi, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. I'll just play with it a little bit. Now we'll hook it up. Now we'll go ahead and engrave it. We're using K40 Whisperer instead of the program that comes with this. I personally prefer K40 Whisperer. It's a lot more simple. I like the UI much better. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut it, but I'm going to bump the millimeters per second up to 20 and take the power up to about 80 or 90. It actually looks like I could cut a little bit faster than what it's going right now. We can go ahead and take off the air assist and check out our part. So these wrenches are just falling out. That's a good sign. Whenever I lined up the plastic, there's an angle right here that I forgot to take into account, and it just, whenever it cut it, there's no teeth for it to cut, but other than that, this looks great. Here's the one with the engraving. I really like how it looks, and just ignore that I accidentally put the L after the I. The L's supposed to be in front of the I, but I guess I just typed that too fast. This one right here looks really nice. And now I'll go ahead and tape in the next one. It's nice to have an edge like that to line everything up to. It makes the process a lot faster. I like this little piece that we used. I mean, otherwise this would have just been scrap, but the engraving feels nice. I just like how this turned out. I just took the speed up of the raster engraving and the speed up on the vector cut. Everything will move along a little bit faster. Look the air assist back up. Now you can see that's moving much faster. I had the power a little bit too low right there. I'm just gonna bump it up a little bit more and then re-engrave. With the power higher, the engraving is definitely working. I like to have the water here trickling down so you can hear it dribbling into the bucket, because if the pump ever stops working, you want to be able to hear if it stops working. I brought the speed up so it's cutting it a lot faster, but it was cutting too slow before. It was really melting the plastic too much. With this higher speed, that'll help. Alright, let's go ahead and disconnect the air assist and take a look at our parts. Now we'll pull these out. And those come out really easy. It's super satisfying pulling them out. You can see the edges of this are a little bit rough. What I'm going to do is take the speed down on the computer and then take the power down as well. Because it doesn't need to be at like 80%. We can probably cut this at 50, but I think that'll leave a smoother finish. I'm going to bring the speed back down to 20, and then I'm going to take the power down to about there, which is probably 65. Now we'll move it to engrave, which is a little bit less than 15. We have it marked there with an E. It's kind of hard to see anymore. And then I have the engraving speed at 200 millimeters per second. Now for the cut, I'm going to bump this up to about 65%. And I took the speed of the cut down to 20. It definitely already looks like it's making a cleaner cut. Once you get everything tweaked, it's a good idea to write down the feeds and speeds. See here for cardboard, we cut it at 10 millimeters a second at 25 power, 3/16 plywood, 3 millimeters a second at 100% power. So once you get everything figured out, write it down. Our cut over here just finished, so let's check out how it looks. Now pulling these out, I can already feel they're much, much better. This small wrench was the one that was giving us the problem last time, and those edges are smooth. So this is 1/32 plastic, is 200 millimeters per second. And we know that the cut speed is 20 millimeters per second at about 65% power.